Have you ever found yourself destroying the many denizens of hell while thinking, "Ah, if only I could do this without these unwieldy firearms"? Conversely, have you ever found yourself hunting down some terrible beasts with various magics and thinking, "Ah, if only this wasn't, like, super clunky"?
You're not supposed to play with fire, you know.
Well, if you answered yes to both of those questions, I have the perfect game for you. Or, more accurately, 1994 has the perfect game for you. Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders, which is proof that nobody gave a shit what you called things in the 90s. And here it is. And here it is with the millennial filter applied. Heretic is a game that combines the frantic 90s FPS gameplay with the wild magics of fantasy games. And honestly, I can't say I've seen that done very often. Now, looking at this gameplay, I'm sure some of you will be saying, this is clearly just a Doom clone. And to that, I respond, hey, just move past it. Let's move on. So here's the story setup. When you first saw the 7 candles, you knew. You knew, but any side would have known in the magic of the reflections pulsing across the ceiling of the Elder's chamber, each flame with its own power to burn, each flame... Hey, listen, I'm just gonna cut myself off and say, there's baddies! Go get them! Fantasy edition! And then we're into the gameplay. If you've played Doom or Wolfenstein or Quake or anything like that, you know what Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders is all about. You know, I can't help but feel like I should be saying that name with a touch more grandeur, so let me try that again. If you've played Doom or Wolfenstein or Quake or anything like that, you know what Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders is all about. You blast through levels, killing various baddies, collecting weapons, secrets, keys, and whatnot, but there are a few minor and a few major additions to the formula. Firstly, take a look at this. Holy shit. You can look up. Secondly, there are no guns in this game, just magic stuff. Admittedly, it's magic stuff that is functionally identical to guns, but magic stuff nonetheless. And thirdly, and this one genuinely is big, there's an inventory system. You pick up power-ups much like you would in Doom, but rather than instantly using them as soon as you touch them, you can hold on to them and use them at your own discretion, meaning you can do some pretty insane stuff like stacking every buff at once. God damn, that's fun. And the game is structured much like Doom, separating themed levels into chapters, and also like Doom, the first chapter ends with you going to hell. Yeah, in the last episode I said this game was going to be both original and derivative. You see what I mean? I mean, come on, how many fantasy FPS games do you know? Conversely, how many Doom clones do you know? This game is a living contradiction of originality. So at the end of each chapter, much like many other 90s games, you get these walls of text which update you on what's going on in the story. I wouldn't usually talk about these because, we've all seen them, but there's something here that is just perfect. A truly excellent quote. "You'll have to seal Hell's Maw from the other side. Of course, this means you may get stuck in a very unfriendly world." A very unfriendly world. You mean hell? Literal hell? It's unfriendly, is it? "And God said unto man, doth not sin lest you be banished to hell. And I hear it's not very nice there." Anyway, the quote continues, "But no one ever said being a heretic was easy." I mean, you're not wrong. Only when progressing to the second chapter did I notice the names of the difficulty options. "Thou needeth a wet nurse. Yellow bellies are us," which has sadly since gone bankrupt. "Bringest them oneth." Finally, some language I can understand. "Thou art a smite meister." Well, if any of you needed a new username for anything, it doesn't get much better than Smite Meister. And finally, "Black Plague possesses thee," which effectively likens the difficulty of the game to that of being a European peasant in the Middle Ages, which is apt. Let's talk about the level design. I love it! Wolfenstein and Doom and many of those other similar games were typically very mazy games. Personally, I'm okay with that, but I understand why it's off-putting to some. And if that is off-putting to you, you might just like Heretic. I mean, the levels are nowhere near as straightforward or linear as many modern FPS games, but it's definitely less convoluted than its contemporaries. There's still a lot of exploration to be done and secrets to be found and whatnot, but you can rattle through the levels quickly on your first playthrough if that's what you want to do. And on the topic of playing the game quickly, there is a notable exclusion from this game, and that is the level timer. In Doom, at the end of each level, it would compare your time to the par time, causing a subtle psychological phenomenon known as immeasurable shame. But that's absent here, no time elitism. You can play at your own pace and not worry about the game judging you for it. And overall, the pacing is wonderful. For me, the ability to play games at your own pace is the single most important metric of quality you can have, especially in action games. Hey, this is future Painticus in the editing suite, and by that I mean the exact same chair I recorded these lines in. I just wanted to add this bit here because I forgot to do that. I know that the whole playing at your own pace thing doesn't work for some games because they have very set pacing for good reasons, and of course, for those, disregard what I'd said previously. That's me done. Back to the old one, he's better. And Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders... sorry.
Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders.
Nails that. You can go in wands ablazing or pick off enemies one by one. Your choice. The ability to ration power-ups and use them whenever you want serves to improve that as well. At this point in writing the script, I'm actively looking for things to complain about, but genuinely I can't find anything. Any control or performance woes that I would have had are likely being dealt with by the emulation program I'm using. GZ Doom. The Steam version of the game ships natively with DOSBox, and I guess if you're looking for a more authentic 90s experience, DOSBox is the way to go, but GZ Doom comes with a lot of nice quality of life improvements. So yeah, I don't really have any complaints. Other than the name, of course. It's ridiculous. A Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders. Let's talk about the enemies. It has all of the classics. It's got the robed sorcerers, floaty impy boys, tornado skulls, cowboy nightmares, minotaurs. Sorry, not minotaurs. They are, molotors. I guess ancient Greece is pretty vicious with its trademarks. It's got the enemy variety you'd expect from a 90s FPS. But I feel like these ones are a little better than many others. On several occasions I saw them retreating, flanking me, using cover, ambushing, and even fighting each other. Other FPS games of the time may have also done this, but it just feels more apparent. And I think that's largely due to the more flexible and relaxed pacing of the whole thing. And really seeing this AI work, it brings the levels to life. It really makes the game feel different to all of the other Doom clones. Hell, I'll even go as far as to say that the AI showcased in this game is better than a lot of modern shooters. And on the topic of modern shooters, after a few levels, I kind of forgot that this game is old. Well, old in the same way that I am old, over 2 decades at this point, and with GZ Doom, it feels and looks incredible. It honestly feels like a modern studio's love letter to 90s shooters, in the same vein as Dusk, but it's not. It's an authentic 90s experience. When playing Doom, and even games like Quake, which came out later, I find it very difficult to escape the feeling of age. It's not a bad feeling, but it's very apparent, and it does change how I view the game ultimately. It's even more apparent with games like System Shock and Alone in the Dark. But Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders... Sorry.
Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders.
Feels fresh. Now let's talk about the weapons. Wand. Basically Doom's pistol, but less completely useless. Could have used a better name. I choose Hitachi. Bow. Knock knock. It's your new best friend. Basically Doom's shotgun, but less consistent. More fun though. Dragon Claw. Hellstaff. Red Edition. Phoenix Rod. It's like a rocket launcher, but... Fire Mace. Bouncy explosions. Oh, and also... Gauntlets of the Necromancer.
Zap.
Now they may seem fairly standard, but every weapon has 2 variants. The standard one, which I just listed, and then the powered versions, which are just... well, just look at them. Incredible. If I go on much longer, I'll end up boring the rest of you who are not bored already. I get it, it's not always fun to listen to somebody ramble about purely positive things, but honestly, I just love this game. Of all 90s FPS games I've played, this is far and away my favorite, and I'll definitely be playing Hexen, its spiritual successor, as soon as I can. I'll review those Hexen games at a later point, but for now, let me say that I wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone who enjoys FPS games, old or new. It's truly incredible, and I'm surprised it isn't spoken about more. Then again, there is some stiff competition for 90s shooters. Man, what I wouldn't give to get this game a reboot like Doom did in 2016. But it's not all sunshine and happiness. I do have some dire news. Even if you haven't played it, you can probably tell that this game is pretty original in concept, right? In an age of odd concepts, this one stands out. Guess what the developers are doing now? Support development for Call of Duty. Now, I don't hate Call of Duty or even the 2000s influx of military shooters, but god damn it, that's like Timesplitters devs being forced to make a generic and entirely unnecessary Far Cry clone. Thank god that didn't oh wait, no, it did happen! Anyway, let's rank Heretic. Shadow of the... god damn it.
Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Riders!
Well, it definitely isn't trash or cursed, and it's far too good to be fine. And I will say, I think I had too much fun to simply call it great. Heretic is among the best. It doesn't quite beat out the Norwood Suite, but it's not far off. And with that, I'm brought to the end of my review of
Heretic, in Shadow of the Serpent Riders.
And I'm also brought to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you have no standards, follow me on Twitter at PainticusYT, and be sure to join me next time for the start of a very strange journey. Bye bye.